We introducing ourselves. All right. Well, I'm O.
And I'm Jay.
Of the J&O Show.
Indeed.
But you can call me Onika for today's purposes for the show. I don't know. What else do you want to say about us? We have a YouTube channel called the J&O Show, where we talk about
things that we were never told.
Yes.
And that's pretty much our thing. We realized that a lot of the friends, a lot of the people around us, a lot of the people that we grew up with who were getting married, a lot of them were getting divorced and having a lot of marriage issues. Yep. And what was weird to us is that a lot of the times it would be the exact ones that we would go and visit and have a great time. And on the way home, we'd be like, something seemed off.
Something ain't right.
We need to pray for them because something seemed a little off. And it was certain conversations we would have, and all of us would be clueless about certain things in marriage, but yet we all had it in common.
Right.
Yeah. And I was just like, we were just never told a lot of stuff. And once we saw a lot of these people starting to actually get divorced and have extreme stresses in their marriage, we were like, okay, we need to do something because this may be more common than just our little group. This might be happening all over the place. Lo and behold, we were introduced to the dating market.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. At that point, I was like, Jesus, we need some help. And then I got red pilled and oh man, it's just been so much. But one thing I could say is we still are in the space of seeing how important it is for marriages and families, especially in our community, to come together, because that is literally the center of the majority of our problems.
Yes.
And the other communities that are doing great, their families are intact.
Yep.
So I was like, we need to fix this if we ever want to be in a better position than we're in right now. Yeah. So we just trying to do our part.
Yeah. So that is us. We just try to share our knowledge, based off of the information that we've attained over the years. We've been together for about 20 years.
Yeah, we'll be 20 years in August dating.
Yes.
And 18 years also in August.
Yes.
Married.
Yes.
So I already just claimed 20 years. I'm like, we've been together for 20 years. I don't even specify nothing. I just say 20 years.
And we've been through a lot within that time. And we just want to be able to share the little bit of knowledge that we have, with other couples, with other married couples, with other people who are thinking about getting married, and hoping that it'll help them understand that marriage can be a beautiful thing, but it does take work. And don't feel like you're alone in some of the situations that you're going through, because it's normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah. And also because there's a thing out there, everybody Drake actually said it in a song, everybody I know that's married is miserable. And I want people to understand that is a choice.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just because it's a difficult choice doesn't mean that it's still not a choice. Sometimes you can just be in a situation where you feel how you feel, and you can make a choice to allow your emotions to control you, or you can make a decision to do something about it and to be active and proactive. And if you take the same mentality that most of us have towards our jobs and our careers and getting money, and we put it towards marriage, then marriages would be better too, just like everybody else's careers can be better. So we just want people to stop allowing their power to be taken from them.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people, stop listening to celebrities and rappers and actors and trying to live their lives or whatever. I'll just take it to this level. The happiest women I've ever met in my life, they died surrounded by their grandkids, surrounded by, if their husband was still alive, surrounded by their husband. If their husband was not alive, surrounded in the house that their husband built for them. Those are the happiest women that I met. Whereas my female acquaintances or some female family members that I have or whoever that basically wanted to be rebels their entire lives, those women, as they're getting in their 60s and their 50s, in their late 50s and their 60s, and some of them in their 70s, and they're dying alone, it's a very sad thing to see. I mean, they're calling up their kids, asking their kids to come visit them because they're lonely all the time, asking their grandkids to spend time with them because they made the choice, like you said, bro, they made a choice earlier that they wanted to be rebels, and they did not want to basically submit to a man or submit to a good quality man. And some of them did make bad choices or whatever, the men that they chose, but they made a choice basically, and those choices are not turning out well. And conversely, I can't tell you how many older men that I know of, some family, some not, that are still flying all around the world trying to sleep with whoever. They're still basically renting women left and right. And when you sit down and talk to these guys, these men have had sex with over 1,000 women. They're not happy people. They've got baby mamas all over the world. They're paying alimony, child support. Nobody wants to really be around. Nobody's coming to visit them. And it's sad because some of these men, I've been in their funerals, and you know how crazy it is to go to somebody's funeral and they have like 2 or 3 people there, and one of the people is a pastor. Like nobody, like literally no one shows up. I've been to men's funerals like that. I'm just like, dude, you were in the army, you were in a fraternity, you played pro ball or whatever, and nobody shows up at your funeral. It's sad because they made the choice. They wanted to be essentially whores and man whores and basically players and pimps. And I've seen the way that lifestyle ends. So I'm just like, that's not basically the way I want to be. And I guess I got to introduce myself as well. Financipation. I typically like to talk about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty through financial literacy and knowledge. I like to talk about finance because as a guy who has an MBA and who has an MBA who teaches finance and things like that, I noticed that one of the 2 biggest issues I find in our community, the community that looks like us, is one, we have no financial literacy this period. And whenever I talk to, unfortunately, I'll just say it straight up, Black folks, what we do to as far as our money is not, it makes literally no sense from an investment or from a saving standpoint. We don't know how to invest our money. We don't know basically the careers they're going to multiply that money. And then what's even sadder is that we don't even know how to set our money up so that the next generation has it better than we did. Every other culture that comes into America, even the Afro-Latino cultures, even the Afro-Caribbean cultures, they understand the concept of like setting aside an inheritance for your kids so you can pass it to your great-grandkids. And you look at what the Vanderbilts and the Carnegies and everything did it, their grandkids are eating off of money that their grandfather set up for them 50 years earlier. So why are we not doing that as Black people?
Right.
So financially, I started financipation because I want to kind of teach people how easy it is essentially to build money. That's one of the issues we have in our community. And the second one is, Jermaine, you hit the nail on the head, you as well, Anika. We're just not getting married, period. And to me, if I look at every other community, the Indian community, the Jewish community, the African community, the Nigerian community, the Asian community, they push financial literacy and they push getting married. And we'll talk about I guess later in this podcast, but there's so many different life hacks and wealth hacks that you get from basically being married. So whenever people like Drake say most of the people he knows that are married are miserable, no, dude, that's the people that you know. Because the happiest people that I know, that the happiest people I've ever met in my life are happily married men and women. And it's not easy. You gotta I've been married for 3 years. You gotta basically put in the work. It's not easy, but anything that's worth having, you have to put in work for it. So I guess that's my little spiel for now.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I like that.
All right, so J&O Show, I'll say this as well. I've been watching you guys from afar off, and I love what you guys are doing. I love seeing a beautiful Black couple that's basically being happily married. Both of you guys are good people, and I love your content. So I guess
thank you.
Let's
thank you.
Game recognizes game, so thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm actually I would have to say that I'm very happy that a channel like yours exists because I mean, when I tell you like hitting it on the head, like financially, we as a people have no clue how to deal. And I'm lumping myself in there too. I'm not acting like I know how to do my money. I'm not acting like I know how to properly invest. I'm not acting like I know how to properly save. But then I look back at how I was taught, and the most I got, God bless my parents. I love them to death. They tried their best. And considering, my parents were older. So my parents are older. So now I'm in my mid-40s. My dad is about to be 80. So it's not like a situation where I'm in my mid-40s and he in his mid-60s, right? So it was an older generation. My father was born in, Lord, please help me get the date right. He was born in 1943. Drafted into the army. He had to go through all the craziness, and he was a doctor in there. So, and he had to see all of the craziness that was happening in war. Not because he wanted to, not because he wanted to go to the army, not because he wanted to serve his country, because he was drafted.
Korea or Vietnam?
Yeah, yes. Now, Now, now he said that he didn't end up going over there. He was away from there, but they were where he was stationed. It was like a pass through for people who got injured and stuff like that. So even though he wasn't in the middle of the firefight like my uncle was,
he saw it.
He got to see all of the results, and he had to be helping people. And when he started telling me the stories of the things he had to do as like a midpoint doctor, because he wasn't a doctor that was doing a surgery, he was making sure that these guys can get to where they needed to get to alive. So he's talking about, I don't want to get too gruesome, but he was just doing things that I was just like mentally, I'm just like, oh, Dad, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. So considering where he came from, the time he came from, the time he grew up in, they tried their best. So I want to make sure I give them their flowers. But when it came to something like, you know, in this modern time, we're like learning how to save and to be financially independent, financially free, wise with your money. They were like, yeah, make sure you have a savings account and you have your checking account, and make sure you put something in your savings account for later on. And they're from the time of, we worked this one job for 40, 50 years and you retired from the company, you know, you got that pension and stuff like that. And
a nice gold watch or the silver watch or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You know, my parents were actually very successful in what they were trying to accomplish, but they didn't have the knowledge to understand the things that a channel like yours gives. So the fact that you are going to take the experience that you have, that you're going to take the knowledge that you've acquired in school and give it to our community, that is so valuable. Because like you're saying, things like generational wealth and stuff, the things that come out of living in an area where poverty is so prevalent, those are things that can be avoided. If you understand what you're doing. So I just want to, I know it was long-winded and I gave a backstory and everything, but I'm so appreciative of channels like yours because we need, of all of the channels on YouTube, and there are millions and millions and millions, we need those, your type of channels. So I just want to give you props for that too, because
appreciate it. And on top of that too, we need to see more of you guys. I mean, Nika, we know each other a little bit and everything, but I just don't see a lot of, I hate to say this, I don't see a lot of happily married Black people. I'll just flat out say, I just don't see that. I growing up, I kind of saw it a little bit in the church. I don't see it at all anymore in the church. I definitely don't see it in the world. I didn't see it in the bars and the clubs when I left the church. So like, to me, I love seeing, when I first saw you guys' channel, I was like, I know her, I know them. And they're happily married. I know that sounds crazy, but literally 90% of the happily married dudes that I know are probably, I can count on one hand. And that's Black, white, and Hispanic. It's everything. So to me, it's just kind of like one of those things where if we want to kind of change what's kind of happening, you got to basically bring the family unit back. So when I saw you guys' channel, I was like, I love this. They're not talking about Mary had a little lamb. They're getting real with it, but they're basically getting real with it from a perspective of marriage works. You just got to pick the right person. And to me, that's what our community is here, because when I hear my little cousins talk about getting married, I hear my little nephews talk about it. They're just like, what's the point of doing that? And I think we need to kind of change that. We have to change that narrative as a group of people. If we don't, we're literally headed to this financial destruction, period. If we don't. So yeah, I love you guys' channel as well.
Thank you. Much respect. And likewise. We talked about I forgot the name of the guy's channel.
I think Eric Billingsley or something like that.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So they had a video called like the dating crisis or something like that. That was it. What have you. Really good episode. It's quite lengthy. Hopefully we'll drop the link if you guys want to check them out. But he had another brother on there, Stefan Speaks, also another great YouTuber. He has a great channel as well. And they had a lot of interesting things that they discussed. Basically like within that segment. But one of the things that I wanted us to kind of talk about before we dive into the crisis of marriage, crisis of dating and everything like that, I think there are certain things that we probably need to define. One of those things would be, you hear all this talk about high value man. I believe now you're starting to hear high value woman. So who, or no, not who. I was going to say who defines who. Actually, no, yeah, let's go there. So who would define what a high value woman is?
All right. I guess I will go first with that. To me, it has to be defined by quote unquote your peers. And the reason why I say that is because you can run around and talk about I'm high value this, I'm high value that. If the men or the women around you don't see you as that, I don't think necessarily that you can define yourself as high, quote unquote, high value. I guess I'll go from a woman's perspective of what I consider high value to be, and what the guys that I kind of roll with, what we all consider a high value woman to be, a quote or whatever. To us, a high value woman is, generally speaking, a woman. First off, I'll just get this one right off the bat. She has to be attractive. She has to be the kind of woman where when you see her, she kind of turns her head and you say, okay, she's sexy, she's attractive, I would like to talk to her. That's one aspect of a high value woman, because at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad, men, we don't particularly care too much about quote unquote how much money you make. There is an aspect to it that we do, but that's not necessarily the first thing we think about. So that's how I define a high value woman. Another thing too about a high value woman is that, generally speaking, most men is kind of changing a little. Well, they're trying to change a little bit now. I don't think it's ever going to change, but generally speaking, you don't see like a lot of high value women with, for instance, OnlyFans accounts. You don't see like a lot of high value women, quote unquote, with like porn, with sex tapes or whatever floating around. I'll just be, we get honest on this show, so let's get honest. I don't really know of a lot of high value women that had careers basically in the adult film industry or strippers or nothing like that. That's just not high value women typically have very, very, very good reputations or whatever. You never see, for instance, LeBron James's wife basically make it with an OnlyFans account. It just doesn't happen. You're not going to see that kind of stuff. Right. So those are some of the aspects of high value women. On a more legacy standpoint, I notice that high value women also raise high value children. So for instance, if you take a look at, like, I would say Denzel Washington's wife, I don't even know what she looks like, but take a look at Denzel Washington's kids. One of them has a very affluent acting career, and he's done it completely irrespective of his father. Right. So compare Denzel Washington's kids to another gentleman who's just in the media for smacking another guy. Compare Denzel's kids to that guy's kids. I hate to say it, but like just look at the outcomes. Just look at the outcomes or whatever. So there's a lot of different factors that kind of go into high value women. I actually have a video about that where I talk about 16 signs of a high value woman. So everybody, you can check that out. But those are like the kind of rough and dirty. They have to have a good reputation. They have to essentially bring, they have to be attractive. And on top of it, they have to basically help you build generational wealth. That's how I define high value women. And if I want to get to the physical thing, they need to be fit, they need to be friendly, they need to be feminine, and they basically need to have a very small, I would say, reputation, if you will. As far as high value men, kind of the exact opposite or whatever. We're defined a lot more by our money. It could be a good, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but at the end of the day, women want a man who's going to protect them, a man who's going to provide for them, a man who's going to lead them. So the way I define a high value man is, A, you need to be financially literate to the point where you can tell a woman, babe, I got this. And if you listen to what I'm telling you to do, we're going to build generational wealth. That to me is a high value man, because you're basically essentially telling a woman, financially, I'm going to be good. I'm going to work as hard as I need to work so I can basically provide for you. Two, I'm a lifelong martial artist. And I think there is an aspect of, you need to be willing to protect your wife. I am a certified pistol instructor. I'm a certified rifle instructor. I've done martial arts for over 20 years. If I physically needed to defend my family, my wife has seen me fight. She's seen me shoot guns. She's seen me do all that kind of stuff. So I can physically defend her. If there's a bump at night in the middle of the night, she knows I can defend her. From a financial standpoint, I think that on top of that, men, we need to basically be providers. And on top of that, we need to basically love our wives and love our kids. That's how I define being a high value man. And on top of that, there also is a level of respect you have to get from your peers. If you're in a room with 10 guys, they need to respect that guy, because quote unquote, they say, okay, Chris brings value to the table. Jermaine brings value to the table. He can roll with us because he's invited to our country clubs. He's invited to our pastoral meetings. He's invited to basically our guys on our business trips because we know this guy brings value to the table. That's how I define a high value man. I know it's a long-winded speech, but that's how I define it. And on top of that too, I think high value men basically take care of their bodies, because at the end of the day, if you die of a heart attack at 40 and you were making $100,000 a year, you just cost your family $2.5 million because you died 25 years prematurely. That's how I define a high value man. So, yep.
Okay. Talk to him, Chris. I love it. Love it.
Focused.
Okay.
I would add now to everything that he said, 100%, right? Especially when you're talking about the sexual dating marketplace, 100%. I would add, and it's something that we've been saying in our show a lot, character matters for everybody. You can have everything that Chris was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if there is lack in your character, there is cracks in the foundation of your family. So one of the things you said was that he has to add value for the men. He has to add value. He has to have respect. So there goes, it automatically indicates a level of character. But what a lot of guys don't do is that they'll hear what you just said and they won't pick up on the subtle way that it's suggested that there be a certain amount of character, because you can't have a certain type of reputation, which is exactly what you said when you were defining a high value woman, without having a certain amount of character. A lot of people believe that as a man, I can just get certain amount of money and I can try to get a certain amount of status, but I don't have to have a certain amount of character because nobody cares. Well, you can try that with you. You'll attract a lot of women. You will. What kind? You know, you'll attract a lot of women, and a lot of women who will want to marry you. But what kind? And if you start things on a rocky foundation because you don't have the character thing in place. So a lot of people don't understand, especially when Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, when he was talking about a lot of these things, a lot of people didn't understand that because he didn't openly verbalize that character was a part of the thing, a lot of people separated them. Because they started going for all of the things, but not a lot of the underlying things that makes you able to attain a lot of these things. In order to have a certain type of reputation, there has to be some character there. In order to have, let's just be honest, a low body count for a woman, there has to be a certain amount of character there, you know? So a lot of people just sort of jump over it and they feel that as long as I'm a man and I get money, as long as I'm a woman and I'm pretty, I'm automatically high value because they said such and such and such. No, boo-boo, you missed the point.
Exactly.
You know, there is an underlying allusion to these things in these descriptions of a high value man and a high value woman that a lot of people miss. And I think that's one of the things that we're fighting for and against as we're talking about this new dating market, because everybody is concentrating on the things and not the character that you need in order to attain these things.
I agree. I agree. It's funny because as men, I mean, I'm pretty sure you've been in a situation, you've been like at a bar or at I don't know, a country club or whatever, and a guy will show up and he's talking about like all these different married women that he's banging or all these different business deals that he's doing, and you're listening to this guy explain, you say, okay, what you're doing is illegal, bro. You might get away with it, but you're gonna get caught. Right. Or a guy talking about all the different things that he's doing. He's like, yo, this is a seedy, scummy guy. I'm not really rolling. And then dude can be a millionaire, but at the end of the day, you're like, all right, I'm not introducing my family around you. I'm not introducing you to the rest of my people in my country club. I'm not introducing you to any of my business dealings or anything, because I'm cool with you. I'm cool hanging out with you in this little facet that we're kicking it, whether it's like we're lifting weights or we're playing ball or we're golfing or whatever it is. But I'm not going to introduce you to the true movers and shakers in my life because I don't trust you and I don't particularly like you. And that to me is where the character kind of comes into play, because at the end of the day, I don't care how much quote unquote money you make. I'm not going to be rolling with a guy who I think the feds are going to show up. I'm not going to roll with a guy who I don't want like one of my female acquaintances to be around because I know he's a scummy guy. That's just the way that it is. Right. It's like there is an aspect of reputation to it or whatever that has to kind of come into play. And you're right. A lot of men, particularly in the manosphere, red pill space, they kind of miss that, I would say.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
And one of the things I was just going to add to that is I think one of the bigger issues with the dating market, with these different mentalities as far as like what's a high value man and what's a high value woman, oftentimes we hear about or we see the modern day feminists basically who are upset with the high value men or just men in general, discrediting them. We did a video about this not too long ago about basically them not understanding what men hold value when it comes to women and what they're looking for. So basically, who defines who is high value? It's whoever that person is trying to attract. So for women, if you're trying to attract a high value man, then they're the ones who define basically what a high value woman is, and vice versa. Like if a woman is trying to find a high value man, then it's the women basically who are defining what high value men are. Right. And I think that that's a big point that is being missed, you know, with a lot of the bickering that's going back and forth, you know, in the dating market and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think another thing too that feminists kind of miss out, misogynistic men miss out on some stuff too. But I think one of the things that feminists miss out on too when it comes to the whole dating market is that when it boils down to it, you can blame the man upstairs, but when you factor in men that are homosexual, when you factor in men that basically don't have a male reproductive organ, when you factor in men that are broke, when you factor in men that are incarcerated, when you factor in guys that basically are mentally handicapped or whatever, there are literally like 10 heterosexual women for every one heterosexual man. And then on top of that, when you factor in the fact that men, I can be 90 years old and still basically probably pull like a 40-year-old and still get her pregnant. But you're never going to see the opposite. You're never going to see like a 90-year-old woman dating a 40-year-old man unless if he's trying to steal her money. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So one of the things I think feminists kind of really are disingenuous about when it comes to younger women is that for better or for worse, there is a double standard when it comes to dating, but there's also a double standard when it comes to the fact that there are a lot more heterosexual women than there are heterosexual men. So that's why I kind of really push back when women say, well, it's my body, my choice. I can do what I want to do. I can live how I want to live. Yeah, you're right. You can. But at 40 years old, a 40-year-old guy, I lived in Miami for almost a decade. I can't tell how many 60-year-old men I saw with 25 and 30-year-old women that actually you seriously did love them or whatever. But you never saw the opposite. So to me, feminists, I think, are being kind of disingenuous with women when they try to push this idea that you can literally behave just like a man, and you can get the same outcomes. And that's not the way that's not the same thing. And I always try to push back on like a lot of women who ask me questions, but I'm like, look, guys can do this kind of stuff. And whether you like it or not, our options are a lot better at 30 than they are for you at 30. Our options are a lot better at 50 than they are for you at 35. And to me, feminists miss out on that a lot, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we're just rolling into it. The idea of fairness, and I think that's one of the things that I hear about a lot. And a lot of people need to understand, like, the easy way to say it is life isn't fair because we live in this participation trophy society. We believe that, everybody should be rewarded for just showing up, just for being alive. You should be. And in a lot of situations, I've been hearing a lot lately that a lot of women, unfortunately, they sort of get a participation trophy because of how their value exists when it comes to the sexual marketplace, the things they had to do. Like, I always hear content creators. This isn't me. This ain't me. So y'all don't get mad at me. I always hear content creators say, if you have a yacht, in order for a guy to be on the yacht, he has to have done something and worked for it for such a long time, for so hard, even if it's not his. In order to get into the company of somebody who has the yacht, you have to have put in a lot of groundwork. Most guys ain't gonna see that yacht until they 30, 35. Matt, it's not really 30, 35. To be honest, it's like 45, y'all.
40,
but 45. I'm gonna say, because we in the social media world and everybody's seeing these guys do it younger because of social media, I'm gonna just say 30, 35, okay? But realistically, y'all, it's like in their 40s, 50s. That's when they be, in order to get on a yacht, they gotta be there. It takes that long to build yourself to be able to do that. The woman at 20 years old,
a nice butt, nice smile.
She there. She already on the yacht. Whether it's the guy who owns it, whether it's his girl or whether it's one of the guys who came there, their girl or whatever. Like the way the world is built. When we talk about fairness, I don't think a lot of people understand that regardless of how it hurts our feelings, this world as it exists does not care about fairness. And at the end of the day, you have to take into consideration that things are not going to be even 100%. Just because men and women are equal in the eyes of value spiritually, in the eyes of value as a person, has nothing to do with your value on the sexual dating marketplace. It has nothing to do with what life is going to hand you. And I think I said it not too long ago. You can get a horrible consequence for making the right decision. And it's just the way the world is built and the way that it is. And you have to understand that things aren't always going to be fair. So the idea of fairness that we have in our minds is really one of the things that is messing people up in the way that they view the world and how things are supposed to be and stuff like that. Because even if we tried to change, if everything in America changed and was a certain way and everything was even and everything was fair, you know, somehow, whatever that would look like, the rest of the world wouldn't operate that. And they don't really care about how we think we want to set up our society. And if they see that we go soft,
they're gonna take it.
Best believe, because you know, we talking. No, I don't even want to go into
they coming to take it.
The man and all of that stuff. I'm not even gonna go into it. I'm gonna just say there's a reason why men are built a certain way and why women are built a certain way. And it is in our best interest to not buck against that so hard that we eliminate real men. And by real, I mean men who are willing to do the things that everybody else ain't willing to do.
Exactly. I would say too, that's actually kind of one of the very cool things about America, because my grandfather was a sharecropper. My father was U.S. military. I'm a mechanical engineer who teaches finance, and my son is probably going to be the first generation who's going to be, I call it the Black privilege class, where Christopher is going to have the ability, and my nephews as well, the ability to basically be in any world that he wants to be in. He's going to have a leg up because of the financial things we're setting in place for him. But when you talk about fair, I always say, like, just like the analogy you said right there, if I'm a 45-year-old single man on a yacht and a bad 20-year-old chick walks by me and I'm not married, I'm single, say in this example, I'm a single guy, I'm going to holler at the 20-year-old girl twice as fast as I'm going to holler at her 45-year-old mother who's the same age as I am. Why? Because the 20-year-old she doesn't have a kid yet. Or whatever. Right. In the same respect, the 45-year-old woman, she may have worked really hard to get to that point. She may basically be making the same kind of income levels that I'm making, but that does not turn me on. It does nothing for me. But her 20-year-old daughter, that's kind of what men want to go after. It's not fair. But it also goes to another way. Let's say you're the type of guy who you basically have no, you're not careful with your seed or whatever, and you're not basically careful with the type of women that you marry. Let's say you marry this low value 20-year-old because she's pretty, she's a big butt and a nice smile. Let's say she has one kid with you and leaves you. You're looking at 18 years of child support, alimony, and possibly some other damages or whatever. And because of no-fault divorces that unfortunately go on in this country, that are generally speaking, 90% of the stuff goes to the woman and goes to the child. As men, that's not fair for us. So it's like, how do you want to define fairness? Women will say it's not fair that a guy can essentially be a whore or whatever, and a guy, like you said, can be 45 years old and still pull a bad 20-year-old. But men will say it's not fair that you can marry whoever you want. But a lot of women out here, Drake is an example. He basically look what that girl did to him or whatever. Where he got the wrong woman pregnant, and she's looking at literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a month of child support for the next 17 years. So it's like, you're right, life's not fair. We got to get over it, people. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. As a happily married couple, what are your thoughts on the rise of this whole manosphere and feminism? Because you guys are killing it 20 years in the game married. What are your thoughts on this red pill? Now, I got married 3 years ago, so I was absolutely, completely 100% into the whole dating pool before I met my beautiful, lovely wife and got out of it. But what are your thoughts on this whole rise of feminism, the manosphere, and all this kind of stuff?
The short answer is they need Jesus. That's the short answer, okay? I'm gonna keep on saying it till he comes. But it's really sad, because I know oftentimes we joke about it, like when we talk, we're like, dang, like I don't remember it being that bad. Like, you know, before we got together, and I'm just like, what in the world? But the reason why we see the dating market the way that it is for several reasons. But I think two of the biggest reasons is, one is the breakdown of the family, and two, because of the rise of social media. Social media is a gift and a curse, because people are getting the Disneyfication of relationship, of a life, of everything. Like we watch a lot of relationship-based content, obviously, because of what we do. And we were just talking about Love is Blind. Okay. It's a Netflix show that comes out, that comes on Netflix. It's a really good show. The thought process behind it is, can you fall in love with someone without actually meeting them, like seeing them face to face? And in this show, essentially, they date for like a week, or so, but they have a wall in between them, so they never see the person, but they have these dates, like they're on dates for like 10 hours per day.
They don't know what their bodies look like. They don't know what their face look like.
No
Nothing.
idea.
Wow.
They can't tell them, give them any idea. I mean, they can probably guess certain things, maybe by like their name, their ethnicity and stuff like that. They can even tell them their ethnicity, like none of that. And basically within that 10-day span or whatever, the thought process is, if they fall in love with them, will they propose basically to get married? And they're supposed to get married basically within 2 months. So after basically they propose and everything like that, then they do finally get to meet each other, and then they get whisked away to go on this honeymoon kind of get to know you vacation before they get to know each other for real and then get married, right? We were just talking about, it's funny because oftentimes they set up dates for one another. They set up dates. It's the show that sets up the dates, but it'll be like real lavish. Like they'll be like off on the beach, and they'll have like thousands and thousands of flowers, you know, all these like really fancy get-ups, and it's just like a candlelit dinner for the two of them. And you see this kind of stuff like online. I said all that to say, like, you see all this kind of stuff on social media oftentimes from people who live that lifestyle, like people who got money, like rich and stuff like that. And you see that and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to have. And it's just like, that's not normal.
Right.
It's not.
Like life is not, oh, I'm going on yachts every other weekend, you know, like most people, that's not happening.
Right.
So it's just sad. I'll stop right there and I'll let Jay go. But yeah, it's just.
Yep, definitely.
I think for us, I was introduced to the Manosphere as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, blue-pilled man. I walked into this thing and I didn't know what was happening to me. I was like, well, you know, this is interesting. What is this video talking about? I'm watching relationship videos because I'm gonna be honest, the stuff that I watch now is completely different from what I watched 3 years ago. I was in a completely different space. Before we were doing this channel, I was doing music. So if you look through my YouTube feed, it was like production tips and this is how you mix and audio engineering this. And I was there. I was completely in a different space. As a matter of fact, one time you were looking at Love is Blind.
Yes.
And she was like, babe, you want to watch this show with me? I was like, what is it? She was like, it's called Love is Blind. And I was like, what is it? And then she told me what it was. And I was like, hell no, I don't. Why I would do that? I'm going to go upstairs in the studio and I'm going to go and make some music. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know what you're talking about. So now doing the show, I'm in a completely different space. So I was introduced to this thing. And in the middle of watching some of the things that I saw, I was watching MTR, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews. I was watching him, and I was like, okay, this is different. I ain't never
heard. He's one of the cleaner ones, actually. He's actually he's actually one of the cleaner guys.
Yeah, because see, you know what the algorithm did to me, right? It was all on purpose because they saw the stuff I was watching, so they slowly introduced me.
Got to get you.
They slowly introduced me to this thing, and then I came across a gentleman, a distinguished gentleman who presented himself as one of the cleanest brothers I have ever seen in my life, and I was like, oh, I like this guy. He got his suited up. Look at his background. And I keep staring at this thing going round and
Brother
round.
Samuel's the Godfather.
And so I was like, and he said some of the most outrageous things I had ever heard in my life at that point, because I blue-pilled, bright-eyed from the church. So, and then I got what they call red-pilled. Changed my life. Still trying to figure out if for the better or for the worse, but it changed because I was already happily married. And you know what happened? Started having these conversations with my wife while we're shooting the show. And she was like, and I was like, so you mean to tell me that all this time you ain't want to be like even? I thought, you know, we was going to be we wanted to be on the same exact because we wanted to make decisions together, sit down, make a list and, you know, do things like that. You wanted me to leave? She was like, yeah, I did. I was like, oh, okay. We got to make some changes then. I think that the manosphere and how it exists. If people are asking, is it a good thing? I'm not going to say that it was a bad thing at all. I don't consider myself truly red pill. I don't think they'll let me in the club. I applied and I just ain't hear nothing back. So I'm assuming that they denied my application. So it was like, this dude already married, man. You can't, I mean, you might be able to be purple pill. You can't be red. So I was sitting there, and one of the things about them, it is a necessity. It had to happen because of the society that feminism set up, and that a lot of people bought into it because they come into it under the guise of, we want to be equal. What's so bad about that? Right. And that's the guise. But then when you start breaking down some of the things they say and some of the things that are normalized,
destroy the patriarchy.
Yeah, the patriarchy, that, and all of these things that they say, you start to be like, wait, we're not talking about equality, y'all. This is not what. And then they started to say things that clicked about what men and women really want. And they started saying things that me and my boys always said, but never thought about why we said them. We didn't understand why we gave certain women value, certain women that we didn't think were of value. And I started to be like, oh my gosh, a lot of this is true. Like, it's so much true. Then you got people that just exist solely to, they say dunk, to dunk on women, and who take it way left, just like feminism. I don't have any problems with women wanting to be equal, but you have to understand, you can be as equal as you want, but men are not going to see you differently because of you being equal to me. Like, we're not.
Because you have a master's degree, it's not going to make you sexy. I'm sorry. Oprah is never going to be hot to me. She's a billionaire. I love what she's doing, but she's never going to be hot to me. Simple as that.
It's not. And it's one of those things, when I started seeing the truth of it, I was like, okay, so it's not so much, for me, it's not so much about the manosphere or the red pill community being about I guess whether people like it or not, or whether we be like, oh, because, you know, we have this nice peaceful asleep society. The reality, it was a necessity, because at some point guys were going to stand up after being kicked and stomped on, and they were going to say something. It wasn't going to last forever. And for me, it has very much changed my life, the way that I move in my family. Certain things we were already doing, we didn't know why though, you know, and certain things we were not. And it sort of put into perspective the things that raised my wife's eyebrow and why they do. I mean, the reality is, being red pills is just about acknowledging the truth. Now, depending on your experience, will tell whether you get what they call black pill. Are you going to go way to the left? I'm going to just call them out. You know, are you going to fresh and fit it? And are you going to have a lot of pleasure just dunking on women left and right? Or are you going to see things for how they are and be like, oh, this is the world that we live in, and I'm going to move in it in a way so that I can be of best use to the God who has put me here to serve a purpose. Right. Absolutely. So Absolutely. I think that it was more of a necessity than anything else. But just like anything else, especially with, like, even comparing the manosphere to the feminist movement, there are people that just go way left and they turn it into something that it was not originally intended to be.
Yeah. So we're both content creators. You guys do phenomenal work at the J&O Show. I think I would like to say good work with Financipation. And you guys know what I'm about to say when I say this. If I do a video talking about HSAs and Roth IRAs and real estate investment trusts and drip accounts for my 401ks, or I want to convert from one into another, or brokerage accounts or whatever, it does not get traction, at least not to the extent that I think that it should, for the level of importance that it is, period. But if I talk about, I met this girl on OnlyFans. This is what her account looks like. She's trash. She's scum. She's a low value woman. She belongs to the streets. If I say those kinds of words, it's very sad, but my algorithms shoot through the roof. So we are incentivized, particularly as Black people, to sell poison to our communities and to just be outlandish and say crazy stuff. And if there's one thing that I loved about Kevin Samuels, God rest the Godfather, people always talk about the sensational stuff that he said. To me, Kevin Samuels was never a very sensational guy. I've said this in other podcasts that I've done. Nothing he said was surprising to me. He talked to me the exact same way my father talked to me. He talked to me the exact same way my grandfather talked to me. The stuff he says is how the men that I grew with talk to me, or whatever, as far as what you don't have to tolerate from a woman, and what, as a man, what your role as a Black man in society is supposed to be able to do. But to me, Kevin Samuels talked more so about building the Black family and about financial literacy. What's life going to look like for me from 65 to 85? A lot of these channels out there, I'm not going to give a shout out, but you know which ones I'm talking about. It's just trash. It's like it's a trash, low value show. They basically just rehash the same crap because it drives up their algorithms, and it sounds really good or whatever. Just bad mouthing and belittling women. It sounds really good, but to me, it's not moving the community forward. And in regards to the feminism thing, Jermaine, I agree with you completely, bro. At some point, men were going to start saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this crap anymore. I refuse to sit back and be told as a heterosexual man that I need to be comfortable dating a 300-pound baby mama with 4 or 5 other dudes' kids, period. That to me is what there's a movement right now to tell men, no, you need to be comfortable raising another man's seed, which is ridiculous. You need to be perfectly, if that's what you want to do that. But it's like there's this incentive to tell black men, you need to basically raise another man's kids. And the woman you need to basically marry is 300 or 400 pounds or whatever, like certain artists that are out here, and basically just have absolutely no class or whatever. And as men, eventually we're gonna be like, no, I will not do that. So to me, there was definitely going to be a pushback. And on top of that, as a mechanical engineer and a guy who deals with numbers and finance, I live in the real world. So as it boils down to it, children that grow up in single parent homes, statistically speaking, are 4 times more likely to go to prison. Yes. Women that grow up in single mother homes are 7 times more likely to be pregnant before they're 18 or whatever. 90% of homeless kids basically and runaways, they come from single mother homes. 70% of high school dropouts come from single mother homes, and 60% of youth suicides come from single mother homes. And if you take a look at it as African Americans, we all black folks or whatever, whether it's the Caribbean or America, the number one ways, if you read slave manuals or whatever, the number one way they basically had to keep black people in slavery was to take the man out of the house. And to me, modern day feminism has nothing to do with empowering women. It's completely about destroying the patriarchy and taking the man out of the house. So I agree with you. I don't like either extreme. I don't like the men talking about women are property and they belong to this, this, and this, and they have no rights, and we should just basically smash them and keep them, smash and dash and keep them moving. I also don't like the other extreme that's misandry, that's basically misandry and says men are scum and you can't trust them or whatever. To me, as a happily married man, I think that there is a medium ground, whatever. And I think that I like you guys' show because you guys talk about what that medium ground is like. What's it like to have a healthy marriage or whatever? What's it like to basically be in a committed relationship with a woman who loves you and who has your back? What's it like to be in a committed relationship with a man who loves you, who has your back? So that's why me and my wife enjoy watching you guys' show, because that's the kind of stuff that you guys talk about, and I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, man.
I was just gonna say, you said something just now that struck a chord. You said that if you were to read a slave manual, the number one way to destroy the family is to take the man out the home. Did y'all hear that? Like that literally gave me chills. And it's just like, wow, like we don't even, it's sad because we as a people, unfortunately, don't even realize that it's like we're enslaving ourselves all over again. Like we're doing it to ourselves. Yeah. By basically doing the same thing. Ripping the man out the home.
Right.
That's why I push back on the women that say, I don't need a man, I'm a strong, independent woman, I'm this and that. I can't tell you how many women I've worked with in corporate America who refused to get married. Basically, they wanted a hot girl, summer it up. And now they're 45 or 50, working 80 hours a week, making $42,000 a year. But the white and the Latina and the Indian women they work next to are only working 30 hours a week. They still make $42,000 a year, but they're happily married and they're raising their kids. Feminism, it played our women, period. Yeah. Like hip hop played black men. It told us and sell drugs and go to prison, and you can get all these girls. As an educated black man, I can tell you, I got more girls than any thug I ever hung out with, period. So to me, it's just kind of like we've been played as a people. Feminism has played us and hip hop has played us. And Anika, it's very interesting you say that about the slave manuals and what it did. So my father was a very outspoken, very loud and proud black man. And he had me reading stuff like the Willie Lynch letters when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I'll say the PG version of Willie Lynch letters. Basically, that letter was basically said, this is what you do. Find the biggest, strongest, toughest black buck that you have. Take him out, bring out all the slaves, tie him to a tree, strip him naked, and in front of his wife and his kids, beat him basically to death in front of his kids. Then you find the second biggest black buck that you have in your plantation, bring him forward, beat him within an inch of his life, but don't kill him because you only want to kill one of your smart black bucks or whatever. Beat the second one nearly to death in front of his wife and kids. And if you do that and you keep doing that repeatedly or every other year or whatever, you're going to keep basically black people in check, because you're going to take the father out of the home. And then you're also going to let the woman know that she can't defend her, that he can't defend them. that was essentially one of the things they did to kind of break Black people. So when I see modern day feminism, I see chicks talking about they want to rely on the government. They don't need a man. They're strong and independent or whatever. They don't care who they lay with because they got men are going to step into the plate and pay these bills or whatever. We're doing the same crap that basically was done to our ancestors 150 years ago. Yeah. And that's why I'm glad I'm glad you guys' channels exist, because you're saying, no, this is foolishness. We're not gonna tolerate this kind of crap. And that's why I enjoy hearing you guys' content.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's wow. That's crazy. And you know, it's the good book says that my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. And I'm so glad that your father had wisdom to be able to educate all of you, you know what I'm saying, by giving you that information early on to help you understand how you can break down the family, so that way you can do the opposite. Make sure that you're there in the home to be able to take care of yours and to take care of your family, because that's the best way in order for you to be successful in life, is for you to be able to be there and be hands-on, you know, in your family, in your child's life, and in your spouse's life. So
what are you guys' thoughts on these? Since we're talking about marriage and family, what are you guys' thoughts on these fake Kevin Samuels-esque type YouTube channels? You know which ones I'm talking about. I'm not gonna give them a shout out. That basically is saying, as men, we need to be out here slaying as many women as possible, smash and dash, bone and gone, never get married. Marriage is outdated. What's you guys' take on that kind of? I think that's not, well, whatever. I think it's BS, to be honest with you. What's you guys' take on people that kind of say that, on channels that say that kind of stuff?
Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge and I want to say experience in a healthy relationship. I feel like, and I know it's probably a lot of people that I'm gonna get backlash, but oh well. I feel like there's a lot of people who operate out of hurt, period. Like they say these things, like, we're not gonna mention their channel again, but they come out there and they say these things about women. It's just like, oh, you basically just need to bag as many of them as you can. We don't love them. You know what I mean? Like they glamorize that because they're operating out of hurt oftentimes. And I know some people are like, no, it's not, you know, they might say, oh no, I'm tired of people saying, oh, we're operating out of hurt, because I heard that recently, I think on one of the podcasts we just listened to. It doesn't have anything to do with hurt. Yes, it does. Oftentimes, because if you can tell me that as a healthy individual male, you had a healthy relationship with your mom, with women in your life in general, for you to then turn around and say that all women are trash, or you just need to go and get as many bodies as you possibly can, something in that equation is not right. Somebody hurt you. You know what I mean? Somebody hurt you in that space. And I'm oftentimes I feel like it's a joint thing. I feel like you hurt each other. The man hurts the woman and the woman hurts the man, and they're operating out of a place of hurt oftentimes when they're saying that. That, or they're just in echo chambers and they're listening to other people that they feel as though who are cool, or who may have a lot of money or influence. So they're listening to these people and they're thinking, oh, okay, well, this person is successful and they seem to be living the life, Disneyfication, looking at them on IG and all these different things or whatever, and thinking that they're happy and those are goals. Like, this is what I need to do. But that's not necessarily the case. They're showing you what they want to show you, the good part, but they're not telling you about the other side of it. They're not telling you about, like, the gentleman, I forgot his name. We did a video on him. I forgot his name. He works out. The dude that works out.
Bradley Martin.
Yes, Bradley Martin. He's a successful dude, built his career, this, that, and the third. I don't think that he was necessarily one of those people who were saying like, oh, get as many women as you want, per se. I don't think that was him.
No, body count up,
Yeah, I don't think he was necessarily saying that. But for these guys that do say getting your body count, you know, that doesn't matter, or get as many as you can, and getting your bag, that's the most important thing. They don't tell you about the opposite end of that. Like, once you get to a certain age, or once you've achieved all that, you have all of this, and then what? You're there sitting by yourself. You're alone.
You're alone in a castle by yourself.
Yeah, like you've had all these women and stuff like that, but Like, who are you sharing it with at the end of the day? Like they say, it's lonely at the top for a reason.
Right.
Like, you've attained all this wealth and you've attained all this whatever, but you have nobody to share it with. And that's a lonely way to go through life.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have anybody that you can truly trust, because you haven't taken the time to develop a relationship with someone for you to be able to share that with. Or you've waited until you've gotten your bag, and now because you have your bag, you're afraid that women only want you because of it. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah. I mean, even Kevin Samuels, these are the things that, as much as the red pill community loves Kevin Samuels, and he sort of became a martyr because of how abruptly everything happened. They never talk about the full scope of a lot of the things he said. A lot of people don't want to put out there. Kevin Samuels was pro-relationship,
yes,
pro-marriage, pro-family. One of the
Finance.
things that he constantly talked about when people used to ask him, well, what makes you feel that you could say this, that, and the third? And he'll proudly sit up there and say, well, X amount of people have gotten together because of me in my personal Discord, and in the group that I have. X amount of people have gotten married because of me. I have actually shown results of getting people together to establish families. Even Kevin Samuels, one of his biggest things, and a lot of people don't want to take it in because of the way that he spoke, a lot of guys were attracted to it, because as men, we don't need the soft words. You know what I'm saying? We just need you to give it to us straight.
Thank you. Right? We don't need a chaser, just give us a straight shot. Straight shot in. We don't need a chaser, give it to us.
Exactly. And he was genius because he knew how to mix that and how that would make people react and still say certain things that a lot of these guys don't take in. He even said, if you go and you get all of this stuff, you buy all of this money, what the hell are you doing it for? If you have no legacy, why? So that you can die with it? What is the point?
Right.
He himself said that. And he talked about when we were talking about you need to smash as many girls as you want to and stuff. And I know the reasoning that they say that is so that you can desensitize yourself from being able to be manipulated by a woman. That's what they say is the reasoning behind it. But I think the thing is, the women that you're placing value on, because the scale you're using is just how they look, that becomes something that you have to be so concerned about. And because you have nobody there that's helping you to vet the women that are coming in there, you're like, as long as she's beautiful, she can come on the boat. Don't matter. That's the only requirement. You look good. Oh, you know what? That was really good what we did last night. You want to stay? Like, come on. Like, that's not smart. It is counterproductive to a community. And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't really understand. Part of we as African Americans inside of this American society have the second highest number of millionaires out of every race.
That's the crazy thing that no one talks about either.
Second high, but yet we are the brokest. How does that make sense? Because the family unit and the community is broken down. And it's the understanding that a lot of people don't understand is it is in every Black person's best interest to build the sense of community that we have, because it is not just going to affect you and your children, but everyone around you. Because you can go and get all this money, but then what's going to be the point if you don't have anybody to give it to, no one to share it with? Like, this breakdown of the family is the reason why so many of us are suffering. And regardless of the fact, and it is a fact, that you make your own life. I know that a lot of people talk about the victim mentality. That's one of the things that a lot of people talk about. The reality is most people are going to be victims of the circumstance in which they were raised. Most people do not have the mental fortitude to understand. They don't even have the information to understand that you are in so much control of your life, no matter where you came from. You have the ability to change things, because a lot of people in our community don't believe that things can change. They believe it can change for everybody, but not me.
Right.
That is one of the prevailing things that has lingered in our community from slavery.
Yep.
That's one of the lingering. If you train somebody to always go in the back door, because they can't go in the front door. When they finally get the opportunity to go through the front, they're automatically going to go to the back.
And they're going to teach their kids to go to the back door as well.
Right. So it's just one of the things that a lot of people need to understand for the person that is average, normal, regular, which is most of us, because everybody thinks that normal, average, and regular is the worst thing that has ever been happened in the world. You know, say like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be average. Most people who are average, normal people are going to succumb to their situation that they were raised in, right? Because as hard as it is for people to hear it and hard as it is to say it, everybody ain't smart. And I said it the wrong way on purpose too. All of us ain't smart, y'all.
Everybody ain't gonna make six figures.
Exactly.
Individually.
I mean, when you look at the amount of, and a lot of us, the only way anybody will ever see six figures is coming together with somebody so that they can have that six figures. That's the only way.
Exactly.
Another thing, Kevin Samuels was anyway, look, another thing he said, that's the ability to do things like you're saying, to invest, to be able to build a portfolio, to leave a legacy for your children so that they can have a leg up and an opportunity. It all depends on us being able to bridge this gap between men and women in this family. And you desensitizing yourself by going around and spreading yourself around. A lot of guys don't want to say it, but the research backs it up. Women are not the only ones that have a sense of connection when it comes to being physically intimate with each other. It's just that our connection is less, but it's not that it just doesn't exist. And that's, and the funny thing is, when guys say that you should sleep with X amount of women so that so that they won't be able to get you, what you're essentially saying without realizing it is that men have the ability to connect to a woman just like women have the ability to connect to a man through physical contact. They're saying it without realizing it, that they're saying it. Because why would you have to desensitize yourself if it wasn't something where we would be connected by doing that anyway?
It's pair bonding.
Pair bonding.
It's complete. I mean, yeah, you're telling it completely like it is. You said something earlier, Jermaine, as well, that just, as Black Americans, we are the second highest number of millionaires in our race.
Yes.
I always tell people that, and they look at me like I'm a plumb fool when I say, I'm like, no, this idea that Black people are poor is ridiculous. The second highest number of men in America that basically are millionaires are Black American men.
Yes.
You will never hear that statistic pretty much on the CNNs or the fight. They don't want us to know that kind of stuff. We have a spending power collectively as a group of people of over $1.1 trillion the last time I looked it up. So what I always tell people about marriage is this: imagine you are working a quote unquote regular job. Let's say you make $60,000 a year, right? Let's say you meet a bad chick or whatever. She's making $40,000 a year or whatever, and her mind is a growth mindset. If you guys come together and get married, that's an $100,000 a year household. Now, if you both of you guys are hoofing it, both of you guys are working, you basically can live off your $60,000, then invest her $40,000 into an IRA, into a REIT, into an index fund, and you guys can essentially start stacking and building that generational wealth. So all the men that are listening, when I met my wife or whatever, me and her had financial date nights. I'll say, okay, babe, this is the amount of money that I have. This is what we're going to do with it. What do you think? What are the options of doing this? And she had no idea what I was talking about. So I started teaching her essentially financial literacy, and I started teaching to her family members and her aunts and her uncles. They were like, who is this guy? So that's essentially how I kind of knew, okay, this is a good woman. She basically is about that life, because I'm talking to her about intelligent and financial stuff. And my wife was like 19 at the time. So she kind of got it much more than the much older women or whatever who I also knew. And that's something that our race does not talk enough about. Marriage is a financial cheat code. Yeah, I get it. If you marry the wrong woman, it can be literally the worst experience of your life financially. Fellas, if you marry the right woman or whatever, it's going to be the best financial decision you've ever made. And the second thing I want to say is this. I got married a little bit later in life. I got married in my mid-30s. Or whatever. So I was a single guy living in Miami. I had a penthouse place. I was making, quote unquote, if you watch Kevin Samuels, I was in that financial bracket where I was, quote unquote, a high value man purely off of income. And I looked at men who were, and I was not in the church at the time, basically, more or less. So I looked at men who were happily married, who did have beautiful wives, whose wives were not cheating on them, who basically had the beautiful families. I was just like, you know, this is really weird, God. All this stuff that I'm seeing that basically, quote unquote, that I quote unquote have, I want to have that. I want to have that family life. I want to have that good woman in my life or whatever. And I think a lot of my boys who also were in the same, so these are guys that own their own law firms, own their own engineering firms or whatever, they were in the same boat. It was like, yeah, it's kind of fun, quote unquote, doing what we're doing, but I do want to eventually someday get married like my brother in Boca Raton. I do want to get married like my brother in Ohio. I do want to get married like my sister out in Cali. So to all the people that are running around trying to, quote unquote, smash as many women as possible, it gets old. I mean, you want to have somebody in your life that has your back. And I think that's something that a lot of the manosphere needs to do a better job of explaining. Because like you said, Kevin Samuels did a good job of saying, no, marriage is what's important. Your legacy is what's important. What are you doing this for? And I think that's something that we don't talk nearly enough about sometimes as men.
Yeah, I agree.
One other thing that I just wanted to mention really quickly, as far as this is going back to what we were talking about when you're talking about blue pill and red pill and everything like that, is the notion that men should be more they should get more in touch with their feminine side.
Oh, she going there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Complete
switch. All right, here we go.
Yeah, changing just a little bit. But he and I were having this conversation not too long ago. It's going to be hard for you to be able to sit there and tell men, real men, that they should get in touch with their feminine side.
Yeah, that's not the verbiage you should use. That's not the word you should use. We're gonna be like, bro, get your pansy simpish. What we don't like that over here. Go to the other team, dog. We don't play like that.
Oh man.
I was going to say, I know that you had something to say about that specifically.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking, it was literally last night we were talking about that, wasn't it?
Was it last night?
It was last night or the night before. I don't know.
So.
We had these conversations all the now, thanks to the channel. Yes, thanks to you guys. You have completely changed every conversation my wife and I have. I appreciate it. No, but it's good because one thing she was saying that we wanted to come out and help people with the things that we've learned in our marriage, but we're also learning a lot because we had to learn the dating market because we've been out of it for 20 years, you know, so we're learning a lot too. And one thing I was thinking as I was watching somebody, it was Stefan from the video. And he was like, yeah, you know, guys need to get in touch with their feminine side. I said, he gotta stop saying that. And I was like, emotions are not masculine or feminine. They're just emotions. Yeah. And I think the thing is, because they're softer, guys go, those are feminine, and the harder emotions are masculine, because men are just masculine and women are, you know, they're soft. And that's what it is. And I was like, you know what? We got to take that out of it. Stop saying get in touch with their feminine side, because then you start to bring in a lot of things talking about get in touch with your feminine side that don't necessarily need to be in there just because you need to understand your emotional state and learn how to control it. Just because I want to control my emotional state don't mean I need to consider trying on a skirt. It's not. But see, but that's part of the reason why a lot of people use that verbiage. And that's why a lot of people don't understand. Part of the reason they're using it is because they're trying to bring in other things about femininity that they feel like men need to be experimenting in. We don't. We don't. Man, it is okay to be a man. And the funny thing is, no matter how much a lot of women may protest it,
women love masculine men. Period.
Talk about it.
I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care immigrant, Christian, Muslim. It does not matter. A woman wants to know if she's walking on the street or on the subway. If a guy walks to her and smacks her butt or punches her, as a man, you're going to step to that dude real quick and lay him out. Women want to know if there's a knock at night or whatever. They want to know that as a man, you're going to get up, grab your 9 or do whatever and go check and see what that sound is. Women want to know if she loses a job. Baby, I got this. Don't worry. You'll find another job. Cool. You don't have to work. You can work for me. I got it. Financially, we're good to go. Women want to know that stuff. And I think when this bro, I think his name is Stefan, when he was saying in that video, get in touch with your feminine side, that's not the verbiage I would use. This is how I tell brothers get in touch. This is how I tell men I coach how to get in touch with the feminine side. Bruh, ask that woman what her favorite meal is. If she's African, ask her how to basically make her favorite African dish. If she's Serbian, ask her how to make her favorite Serbian dish. Cook it 3 times, cook it 2 times. And the third time you cook it, invite her over to your place, and it should be good by the 3rd time you make it. That's how you get in touch with your feminine side. All right, you and your wife, y'all been beefing, you and your girl, y'all been beefing or whatever, about whatever, do this. Basically, talk to her in a kind, caring way or whatever. And then I guarantee she's gonna make you feel better later that night. That's how I tell guys to quote unquote get in touch with their feminine side, because you start using that feminine whatever, you're gonna drive real men, like you said, Jermaine, you're gonna drive us off, because we are not that's not the verbiage we're gonna use.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that the idea for guys, you have to understand the softer side. All right. So for guys, look at it like this, because I know that there was a thing, even with Kevin Samuels and with other guys, about how men speak, right? How men speak to each other versus how they speak to women versus how they speak to crowds. If you're somebody who is an orator, you have to learn how to speak for the crowd that you're presenting whatever your idea, whatever you're selling is to.
Read the room.
And yes, read the room. Guys, men are goal-oriented, right? One of the things about men is that we tend to see big picture, women see detail. As a guy, when you're speaking to a woman, I'm just speaking as a married man, telling you personally in my life, when it comes to me and my wife, when it comes to me and even my cousins and other women in my family, you have to understand, what is the best way to get to your goal? You have to think about when you're talking to women. And the reason that Stephen Speaks has such a large audience is because he knows how to speak to his audience. If you're having a conversation with your wife, you can't talk to her like she one of your boys. Now, we know that when it comes to certain things we do and don't say around her, because the reality is we've been rating y'all
since we were 5 or 6 years old.
Bruh, let's just be honest. I remember rating women when I was in 8th grade very clearly. And what we were saying was, we was talking about this one had a big old and this one had a little teeny one and their face was this way and that. We were very honest about it to each other. We said nothing to the women. That doesn't change when you get older. You have to, what is the best way to accomplish your goal? Are you trying to problem solve in your home? What is you talking a certain way? Even if you're talking to a dude and you talk to him crazy, we're used to talking shorter. We just sort of get to the point and we're blunt. But if there's a certain way that you're saying the short thing, even a guy will go, dude, who you talking to?
Exactly.
So women knowing, and I'm sorry for those of y'all who think, because we're equal, that women and men are just exactly the same. We're not. Women are more emotional, right? And I think he said, Stephen said something else in the thing where he was like, the thing is, because you see men blow up sometimes, they think that men are more emotional. And he was said, the thing is, men, he said men tend to hold things in and control. That's one of the things they do. So when they get to the point, especially in dealing with something over and over and over and over again, there may tend to be an explosion at that moment. But when they make decisions, they tend to be logic based as opposed to emotionally based. Right. Men and women are not the same. So if you're having a conversation with them, take into consideration what you know scientifically. Women are a little bit more emotional. When they receive information, it goes in through their emotion center first. Dr. Caroline Leaf is a great woman. She explained this, and I was just like, ding, like when it happened, it goes in through their emotion center first, then it goes through their logic center, then they make their decision. When men receive information, it goes into our logic center first, then to our emotion center first, then we make a decision. That's the way men and women are built. It's different. And so as a guy, if I'm talking to my wife, I have to understand she's going to go through her emotion center first. So the way I talk to her, she's going to look at that before she listens to what I said. And a lot of guys have seen that, because you'll sit up there arguing with your wife and you'll be like, I didn't say that. And she's concentrating on the way you said it. Exactly. And a lot of us have been there where we end up apologizing for something where we didn't do wrong, but communicate through, I'm sorry I made you feel a certain way when I was saying that, baby, but we still got to handle it the way that I was saying that we handled it. So now you got to come back and revisit it. We have to learn that we talk to women differently than how we talk to women, just like we talk to a board at a board meeting or a crowd differently than we talk to our boys.
Yeah. Yep. And it's been like that for, centuries. I'm not going to talk to my quote unquote pastor. I'm not going to talk to my father. I'm not going to talk to my, same. I'm going to talk to my boys on the block or the dudes I'm hooping or playing basketball with. Right. So you have to know your audience or whatever. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is about you have to know your audience. So if I'm talking to like some feminist chick and she's coming at me in an extremely aggressive, rude mood, I mean, I'm talking about to the point where, like, as a trained fighter, I'm thinking, okay, if you was a dude, I probably would swing at you right now because I don't like, honestly, the energy you're giving me. But literally, as men, there's a certain level of low violence that we have amongst each other, period. If I'm basically in the streets or whatever, and a guy's coming in an extremely aggressive way, and I can tell, okay, this guy is ready. All right, as a man, I need to be ready to defend myself or whatever. Your adrenaline will start pumping. It's a fight or flight mode or whatever. There are certain ways that women can kind of talk to men nowadays, and they don't realize they're essentially almost trying to elicit that same response from us. And as a guy, if you're a good guy, you're never going to put your hands on a woman. But that's where that whole feminine energy kind of comes into play or whatever. Earlier, when you guys asked me what's a aspect of a high value woman, high value women have a mystique and a feminine energy that kind of calms men down. Whereas aggressive, low value women rile us up. It's like dealing with a hood chick versus dealing with a woman who's properly raised to be a wife. And you hit the nail on the head about that, Jermaine. You really did, bro. You really did.
That's one of those things that we try to put out on the channel, because we do have certain things that we say in our man spaces, and we'll complain about how our wives take the way that we talk. And that was just one of the things I came to realize, like when he was talking about the feminine energy and all that stuff, though I hated the terminology he used, but I just, I was like, no, don't do that, brother. No, we don't got to be feminine at all. Just let men know, look, emotions are emotions. Like if they were male and feminine, there are some things that are feminine and there are some things that are masculine. Guess what? The women ain't got the things that are masculine, the men don't got the things that are feminine. But there are certain things that we do have in common. It's just that the levels are different from men to women, just like the levels of testosterone in a woman's body is very different than the levels of testosterone in a man's. I mean, immensely different than the levels of testosterone in a man's body. The same thing with estrogen. If a man gets a certain amount of estrogen in his body, it starts to develop cancer cells. So, like, we are not meant to be the same
at all.
And to take it back in the day, when men are on the battlefield dying in war, testosterone is what allows you to essentially run into bullets or run into a hail of arrows or whatever. It literally kept, I think it's called the disposable man theory or whatever, which says that essentially as men, every one of us has like 400 billion human beings inside of us. And the idea is because when one of us dies, well, we can make another one. Here's another one. You got 400 billion others kind of there. Testosterone allows you to basically fight harder, fight harder, and basically keep society safe. And when you try to tell men not to be men, that's where chaos essentially erupts. Really 100%. Is.
Yeah, definitely.
In regards to that, let me ask you this, fellas. Let me, and Onika as well, Jermaine and Onika. Let me ask you this. Right now, I read a study that says men today at 20 years old have the same level of testosterone as as men at 60 years old today. Yes. And men like 50 years ago had the same level as testosterone at like 15 as like a viral man does at like 25 or something. It's something crazy. Basically, men today have a lot less testosterone. And when you factor in like internet pornography, OnlyFans accounts and stuff like that, in the past, people had to actually put in work to have sex with a woman. Today, if you're about that life, you can just pretty much find a release on whatever gadget that you have.
Right.
What are the ramifications for that in our society that you guys think? Because they're saying men today are not dating or approaching women nearly as much as they did 10 years ago. So what are you guys' take on that, I would say?
I mean,
the lack of testosterone and the overabundance of internet sexual content, I would say.
That's a lot. It's a lot. But I guess, firstly, I will say, the main reason or the big reason why I think men have a lack of testosterone nowadays is because of the food that we eat. Okay. Just because of what we are going through personally right now, like I can't stress enough to people in general, but especially people that look like us, we need to be aware of what we are putting into our bodies. Okay. The food that we eat, you are literally eating for life or eating for death. It doesn't make any sense that a 60-year-old, 40, 30 years ago?
No, today, a 60-year-old man today has the same level of testosterone as a 20-year-old kid. That's what those are the kind of studies that I'm reading right now.
Right. No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make any sense that a 60-year-old from back in the day would have a higher testosterone sperm count, basic. I don't know if I can say that. Whatever. Yeah, count. Leave that out. The fact that they can have a higher count at the age of 60 30 years ago than a 20-year-old
No.
in this day and age says something.
Right.
Like there's something significantly wrong with that. I remember when I was pregnant with our son, with Cairo. And when we had Nala, when I started giving her formula, she was allergic to it. So we had to switch over to soy.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the experience that I had with her, automatically, when I had to go to formula, I was thinking to go to soy for Kai,
Right.
for our son. And it wasn't until way after the fact, I found out that that wasn't necessarily a good thing, because soy in men increases their estrogen levels. And just like Jermaine was saying a few minutes ago, like if you take in too much estrogen as a man, that can cause cancer in your body. So a lot of these things we don't know because we just don't know. We're not educated on it. A lot of these foods that we're eating that are high in estrogen for men, you know, or just our foods being pumped with a whole bunch of hormones, chicken, and, you know, all those different things that we're eating, it's like, it's jacking us up on so many different levels, and people don't realize it, or we don't talk about it enough for people to understand like the detriment that it's having and wreaking havoc on our bodies.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the major reasons as to why that is. But then also, to your point, just the accessibility and the fact that nowadays there is no shame for women basically to go out there and just spread them for whoever they want to, and it's easy access for most guys, like, or, you know, they can basically go get it wherever they want to, or if not that, then they can easily find it online. Like that takes out the whole what they say, the thrill of the hunt, you know, like men basically trying to pursue women, because back in the day you didn't have easy access like that. So
you had to get her number, you had to write it down on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
You had to call her.
In
a different country, you had to get a calling card.
Yep. There was some effort.
Yeah, you had to put in some effort, but nowadays there is no effort that has to be made. So that, I think that is also helping into widening that gap, where people don't really care to get married or be like, you know, to be together like that, because they feel as though men, more so in that sense, they can fulfill their needs somewhere else, or they can just get it whenever they need it from whomever, you know, and not necessarily worrying about having a connection or a relationship basically with anyone.
She said something that was pretty much key to your question. We are living in an age right now where social media is the gift and the curse. And I think that's really the home point of that, because there was a time, as we're talking about people having to work for to get the attention of women and stuff like that, but people also had to work to be heard. You had to develop some type of reputation to be the type of person who would be speaking about anything. You had to have some type of knowledge of the subject. People had to respect your intellect. They had to think that you had something of worth if you were going to speak. Now in the social media age, unfortunately, everybody can talk and have an opinion, even people who should be really, really quiet.
Yes.
So
very quiet.
That is a part of the big issue that we're facing with exactly what you were talking about. We have so many people putting out messages and continuing messages about these things, the relationship between men and women, the situation concerning how easy it is for men to just go. We have an over-sexualized society and all of this stuff. And then you have a lot of these women who participate in this society. And the problem is, if a lot of the young people, and me saying this, all right, try not to get myself canceled. I'm gonna try to word it a certain way so y'all understand what I'm saying. All right. One of the issues that we have is that there is a complete lack of respect for what the older generations have to say about certain things that do and don't work. Just like she said, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. And a lot of that is a lack of wisdom, which is very different from knowledge. And a lot of people don't understand that, and they no longer respect what people who are older are saying. And everybody right now in this social media society is living for right now. They're not thinking about how the decisions that they're making, whether it's I'm gonna stay at home and just go online and find something for me to be able to release on, or if I want to, as a woman, over sexualize myself so that I can pay my bills, they're not seeing how those things are going to have long-term ramifications, because all they're thinking about is right now. All I'm trying to do is make my rent this month. All I'm trying to do is think about things right now. And then this then doubles back to what we're saying about the importance of a channel like yours, because people don't understand finance, because people don't understand relationships and long-term ramifications for the decisions that you make now, both financially and emotionally, as far as your relationships are concerned. They're not listening to all of the people getting online right now at 40 and 50 years old talking about, the women who are talking about, I can't find no man who wants to give me any attention, or the guys that I'm finding ain't worth nothing, because I wasted my time going out here doing what I'm doing, shaking and this, that, and the third.
Pookie and Ray Rays.
Yeah, Pookie and Ray Rays, busting it open for them, So it's like, that to me is essentially what the big issue is about, exactly what you said, because everybody has a voice, and now people are just attracted to the voice that sounds most like the voice that they hear in their own head already. And it's not necessarily about whether it's somebody who should be speaking. It's just that somebody who speaks and makes me comfortable in where I am, so I can just continue doing what I'm doing instead of having to grow and having to learn and having to change. So that's what I think.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. You guys have been married for 20 years. I've been married for 3. So I'll defer to you for the marriage knowledge and everything. If a person says they want to get married and they're looking for a healthy marriage, what advice would you give them? I mean, what are 3 pieces of advice you would give them, I guess, in the marriage, in the marriage, or even in the finding a spouse in the dating game? What's some advice you would give them, I would say?
Well, the first thing I would ask them is, have they figured out what they want to do with their life? Have they figured out basically their purpose? Most people haven't, but it's something to think about, because unfortunately, that is not something that we talk about enough, or at least we didn't before we got married. But now in this day and age, I'm hearing it more. But I think talking to them about understanding what their purpose is in life, why God put them on this earth, figuring out what that is first, so that way they can be on the path to start to develop their gifts to help them basically with their purpose. Because the Bible says that your gifts will make room for you, i.e. money, to take care of yourself and other things. So, and the reason why that's important is, for example, if your purpose in life is to be, I don't know,
an engineer.
Maybe you're going to
engineer.
Yeah, I mean, engineer. Okay, that's cool. But I was going to say something like that would mean that it would be very difficult for you to have a relationship. So let's say if you were going to be the next Oprah.
Oh, Lord.
Like if, no, I'm serious. Like if the calling on your life is someone who is to be to that level of success, if you're not working on that now, and you wait until you get married to try to pursue that, you can make it so difficult. Not that you can't achieve it, but you make it more difficult, because regardless of whether or not you want to admit to it, marriage is work. And it's commitment and it's time. And just like anything else that's worth anything, you have to put time and effort into it. So if your time is divided, because you have to put in so much time and effort into building, a legacy, a career, something as big as like an Oprah, like that's going to take a lot of time. You might be able to have a spouse or what have you, but let's say if you wanted to have kids, that might not be something feasible for you, at least not in that present time. You might have to look maybe 10 years down the line, because you need the time to set yourself up before you can bring kids into the picture. So that's one thing I think purpose would definitely be one.
Yeah.
It's having that conversation.
Yeah. And to bring that even further in, one of the things about marriages that makes marriage hard for a lot of people is being out of purpose and substituting what it is that their actual purpose is with what they see online. So we're going to connect what we just talked about to this. A lot of people that I've been around, that I see, they'll go to work their job, come home, and because they hated the last 9 hours of their life, you bring all of that into your home.
Yep.
And now your home is in disarray too. And this is both for men and for women. A lot of people don't understand because they just want to chase money. So you got somebody like yourself who is obviously purposed to do what it is you're doing, because I can hear just in the way that you talk about it, that there's a level of passion. And those are the people that tend to excel at the job. When you go to people who excel at the job, is because it's people that when they go to work, it's not so much like a begrudging, gritting your teeth, like, oh, I gotta be at work all day. It might be hard, but even in it being hard, it's like you're enjoying the process. You're learning, you're growing. When you go home, you're not anywhere near as tired as the person who just went to the factory working a job and they hate it. But the reality is they would rather be doing something else. I would rather be at home cooking because I really, really love cooking and I'm good at it. And I don't even have to put in effort. For some reason, the way the seasoning, it all makes sense in my head. Sometimes I make up dishes, but I gotta go to this job and work this factory thing just so I can pay my bills. And then what happens? You come home, you don't really have a whole lot of time to cook like you would want to, but you got to. So now you cook and you're pissed off. And you look at your spouse and you're like, I can't. And if you don't pick the right, like there's some situations where you pick the right one, and even if you're out of purpose, they can help you. But then what happens is a lot of people start looking to their spouse to make them happy because they're not already happy because they're out of purpose. And that causes a lot of issues too. So just to sort of bring her thing with purpose all the way home for people, a lot of us can understand. Going home, I used to come home when we first got married. I was depressed for years, undiagnosed, but I was depressed for years to the point that I wanted to take my car and literally drive it off the road on the way home from work. Why? Because I hated my job. I used to work a job that I hated. Like I used to go there, put on my headphones and literally just try to zone out the entire time that I was there, to the point that there were people there who were trying to like build like some type of relationship with me that just to be cool, make the time pass a little faster. If you got somebody, I wouldn't even be like, they would be like, yo, Jay, what up, Jay? And I'm here. I'm trying to zone out. I'm trying my best to not be here. And even talking to you, and I understand you're doing that to make it less stressful. But even talking to you means I have to exist in this moment at this job that I hate. And I would come home just with this attitude, and she's sitting up there like, oh, baby, oh my gosh, what did they do to you? They didn't do nothing. I hate the job. And I was not doing anything because I didn't understand purpose. I wasn't doing anything on the side. Because even if this is a temporary situation, we just got to make money. But I at least am doing something on the side, building the thing that my purpose is. So I think for me, that is huge. Building your purpose. That is a part of knowing who you are. Because if you're in purpose, that is going to dictate everything from the time that you spend, where you go, who you hang out with. Like you being in purpose is going to build your entire life. That is going to dictate everything that's happening, everything that you give time to, and what priority these things you give to. What level of priority you give all of these things. So that's going to be the center of everything. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it because when you say purpose, it just sounds like motivational mumbo jumbo. And a lot of people don't understand that it's actually very significant in people learning to be content in their lives before they even get married. Because if you go into a marriage depending on a spouse to make you happy, that's where a lot of these divorces are coming from. And a lot of people don't realize it. Because let me tell you something, when you have these kids,
oh yes, everything changes.
Oh, the time commit,
Baby, he's asleep right now. Okay, cool, let's disappear.
Man, listen.
It's just it changes.
a whole nother level.
It's been so long since my wife and I have had the opportunity to just, and the funny thing is we'll be so wrapped up in the schedule of day-to-day life that if our God bless my parents, God bless her mama, they going and we gonna take the kids for the weekend, y'all go spend some time with yourself, we don't even take full advantage of it because we're so caught up in the the kids are gone, so that's great, we get to sit back and relax. Yeah, but don't we gotta have extra for them on Monday when they go back to school? Yeah, we gotta make sure we have that done. So even when we have time, because we're just so used to being in that thing, kids make everything so much more difficult. Now, I think because of the nature of children, a lot of people don't want to say anything about them that can be perceived as bad or negative or something that you gotta have to work at. They wanted, children are a joy, they're just beautiful, they just bless the world with their smiles and their love. And I'm
getting away in their blockers.
Yeah, my children make my house so bright and so happy because they give you this, they have this natural want to just be happy, right? Yes. So there is that aspect to it. But then there's the other side that a lot of people don't want to talk about. That is very, very real. That is very, very hard. So you have to have certain things in place before you jump out there. Another simple thing, look in places where people have to show their character for you to get the best sea of people to choose from. So they say church, it's all broken and it's all messed up, right? I get it. I left the church too. I ain't gonna lie. I left the church. I was in there. I was a church man. I got the preacher voice and everything. I could sit up there and I can talk to you in the way where we all understand how. Yes, I was there. I was in church, right? And I left the church. And one of the things I realized when I was there, no, that's not the way it started. You can find whatever you want to in church, just like everywhere else. That's. You have to look for the people. If you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to keep my eyes open to see if somebody tickles my fancy, so to speak. Who are the people who are involved?
Right.
Who are the people who are acting like being there actually means something? Not the pew watchers, not the seat warmers, not the people that sneak in, not the people that are dressed a certain way. There are certain things that you can do to weed out the people that's just there, and that's probably there for the things that aren't going to be useful to build a marriage. And then there are people that are there that are going to have the characteristics that will lead to longevity, trust. You know what I'm saying? Those type of things. There are things that you can do to look for them just like anything else, or maybe volunteer for a charity. Who's the amount of character it takes for you to be somebody who volunteers for a charity, to just go and volunteer to help people who are in need. You know what I'm saying? Getting people vetted.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm saying, I think that'll be our last point because I see time is going. But yeah, definitely vetting cannot be expressed enough. Like, you need to have a crew of people, even if it's just a crew of two, but you need to have someone that you trust their opinion, someone who's not going to just tell you what you want to hear, somebody who's going to keep it 100 with you, to be able to see things that you might miss. I would highly also recommend that it's someone who's older, that you do have someone who has wisdom, because they've been doing this thing called life a little bit longer than you have. So they have some perspective that you might not have. So definitely have someone older that you can, that you respect, preferably someone older that is in a happy relationship or marriage.
Or that live their life. They have experiences. They're not a 60-year-old, I hate to say, a virgin.
Yes.
Right. Yes, exactly.
But yes,
definitely.
Like
a better word.
Yeah. But you definitely have to have your vetting crew, because they'll be able to see
things that you can't see, because
they'll see them branches in the back that you've just been ignoring. So you definitely need to have your vetting crew. So I definitely think it would be those three things. Which was purpose. What was the second one you just said?
Have mercy.
Oh, looking in the right places,
right?
Like, volunteering and things of that nature, and then of course vetting, having your vetting group. I think that'll be it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been a true pleasure. I've enjoyed it. I say because I run a financial channel, I would answer, the only I would add to that is this. From a financial standpoint, if I were to give some free financial advice, I do give one-on-one sessions. So anybody, if you want to book a session with me, you are more than welcome. I could definitely help you guys, J&O, with your finances if you want.
Listen, don't worry. I'm coming for you, Chris.
Right, cool.
I was gonna say, I was watching the episode that you did on how to employ your kids. I was like, oh, that's smart. So we gotta talk.
Yeah, exactly. Start that 529, that custodial account. Yeah, we can definitely wrap after this podcast. But I'll say from a financial perspective, people, 401k, sometimes I call it the 3 pillars or whatever. So your 401k, at this point now in 2023, you can invest $22,500 into your 401k. If you cannot invest $22,500 in 1 year, invest what you can into your 401k. The reason why, because it's a tax efficient account or whatever, and it lowers your taxable income. The Roth IRA, that's another one or whatever. By law, you can put $6,500 every year into your Roth IRA. That's another tax efficient account or whatever. So my advice is put as much money as you possibly can. The thing I love a lot about the Roth IRA is that a lot of companies match a certain percentage. So if you put $1,000 into your Roth IRA, a lot of companies will put $1,000 into your Roth IRA. It is literally free money. Another thing I tell people to do is invest in an HSA account. It has a triple benefits or whatever as far as its tax purposes. And if you're a single person, you can put $3,600 every year into your HSA, or you can put $1,700 into HSA if you're married like we are. So I call those the 3 pillars. Max out, put as much money as you possibly can every year into your 401k, into your Roth IRA, into your HSA. My advice is start with the Roth IRA because that's the one that a lot of employers, start with the 401k because that's the one that employers match. And also on top of that too, find a high interest account. Just because 3.75% of an APY is a much higher interest rate than 0.01% that you're getting on Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatever. So there's just different little small things like that. So that's a little quick financial tidbits I'll give you. And I would say from a dating perspective, because like I said, I got married in my late 30s. My mid 30s or whatever. So just to kind of piggyback off what you guys said, first and foremost, the first bit of advice I would give people about being in the dating games that take care of your body. At the end of the day, women, I'm just gonna be completely honest. Women do not want to be with a guy who's so fat that when he gets out of the shower, his stomach is hanging below his junk. I'll leave it at that. Okay, let's just be real. I mean, I get the whole body positivity thing, but as a certified personal trainer, I don't get it. People, you need to take care of your body and be healthy. Women, same thing. You can't necessarily change how quote unquote long your hair is. You can't necessarily change quote unquote how tall you are or whatever, but you can always change your health. You can always basically change your body type. So go to the gym, hire a personal trainer, work out. I'm telling you, a woman that if you enjoy the person that looks at you when you sit back in the mirror, you're gonna basically be a much more positive person, and your dating options are gonna improve. Also, find out what your non-negotiables are. If you're a Christian and you only want to date Christians, that's a non-negotiable. If you're a Muslim brother, you only want to date Muslims, that's a non-negotiable. If you're the type of person you like to kind of convert people, and that's what you want to date, you specifically want to date a woman who's outside your faith, cool, do that. Whatever your non-negotiables are. One of mine was I had to date a woman that worked out, and I wanted to date a woman that it was either an immigrant or she had some experiences living abroad. That was just my own thing or whatever. So find out what your non-negotiables are. And lastly, it may not sound fair, but fellas, get your money up. I run a YouTube channel for a reason, because from a financial standpoint, the women you can date making $40,000 a year are significantly different than women you can make $100,000 a year. It may not sound fair. I get it or whatever. And I get that. But at the end of the day, we do live in America. In this country, in capitalism, you can basically become anything that you want. So fellas, get your money up. I have a podcast where I talk about how to level up as a man. So that's a little quick bit of advice financially and dating that I would give you. That I would give anybody that's listening to this podcast. And I want to say thank you to Jay and to Onika, because this has been great. Thank you guys for inviting me to this channel, because I learned a lot. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I love what you guys are doing. We need to see more happily married Black couples and more happily married people, period. In my world, in the finance world or whatever, the married couples that I talk to on average have 25 to 35 times more wealth than everybody. It does not matter whether I'm talking to a lawyer that makes $95,000, a mechanical engineer that makes $100K, or a doctor that makes $200K. Married people have over 30 to 35 times more wealth than single people. And so when people are here telling you don't get married, they're crazy. Yeah. And that's just from a financial. I'm not even going to talk about the legalities and the criminality element that goes to single parent kids who grew up in single parent homes versus dual parent homes. So thank you guys. I love your channel, and please continue doing it, because I want to see more people that look like us that are happily married. I really want to see that for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ring gang.
Yeah.
Ring gang.
Ring gang. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes,
We really
absolutely.
appreciate it. And I enjoy your content as well.
Yeah.
I have to dive deeper into it because as you said, unfortunately, a lot of us are just not financially literate.
Right.
And that's definitely something that we're working on. Working on being better with our finances and being more financially literate. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
And we had a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So definitely. I know this for my outro. My channel is all about making money, saving money, building generational wealth, and financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So everybody, you can book a session with me if you want. And my Instagram page is thereal_financipation. My Facebook page is Financipation. I also have some digitals and e-products below. I know Onika and Jay, we're going to link up so we can do a one-on-one session and everything about finances and everything. And I've enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you for this.
Yes, thank you. And you can find us on YouTube. We are the J&O Show. We're also on Instagram as the J&O Show, but the word "and" is spelled out. On YouTube, you can just put the "and" symbol, but hopefully everything will be linked down below. So if you guys enjoy what you heard, consider subscribing and leave us a comment and let us know what you guys thought.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Same thing. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. So thank you.
All right.